A waitress paid for a veteran's meal weekly. One day, his family walked into the diner with news. Welcome to Kindness Stories, where small yet inspiring stories of kindness will touch your heart. In the small town of Bedford, where wheat fields stretch to the horizon, the small, sunny diner sits peacefully on the corner of the main street. Every morning, sunlight streams through the old glass windows, illuminating the polished wooden tables that have been carefully cleaned. The restaurant is not large, but it is always bustling with locals enjoying simple, delicious meals. Emily Parker, a 22-year-old with dark brown hair that is always tied back, is one of the hardest working waitresses here. Emily works the morning shift from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day, rarely taking time off. No one at the cafe knows that she is saving her tips to pay for her dream of becoming a teacher. Despite the hardships, Emily always has a smile on her face, spreading warmth to everyone around her. Every Friday morning, Walter Brown, a thin man of about 75 with white hair, always walked into the shop with a calm demeanor. He usually sat in his usual corner, near the window, where the soft light fell on his aged face but still exuded the toughness of a veteran. As usual. "Emily," he said in a deep voice, as she approached the table. "Still a hot bowl of soup and toast?" Emily asked, a small smile on her lips. He nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You know my preferences better than I do." Emily brought out the food, noticing that Mr. Walter always counted the change before paying. He never complained, but Emily noticed his thriftiness in every gesture. After months of serving him, she realized that his Friday meals were not just a habit, but perhaps a luxury. One morning, as Emily watched Mr. Walter fumble with his wallet, counting the coins, she felt her heart sink. She went back to the counter, looked at the bill, and decided to secretly pay for his meal. "I'll pay his bill," Emily whispered to Linda, the manager of the restaurant. Linda looked at her in surprise. "Emily, are you sure? You work so hard to save money." Emily nodded. "I'm sure. It's a small thing, but I feel it needs to be done." From that day on, every week, Emily quietly paid for Mr. Walter's meals without telling anyone. As time went on, Emily's actions became part of her weekly routine. Mr. Walter continued to come to the diner regularly, unaware that his meal had been prepaid. Every time he took out his change, Linda, at Emily's request, would tell him that his meal was on sale. "Maybe God is blessing me," Mr. Walter often said, a gentle smile shining in his eyes. One morning, Emily was clearing the table and thinking about why she had decided to help Mr. Walter. She remembered the stories he had told her about his youth as a soldier in the Vietnam War. The years he had fought for his country, leaving him with many physical and mental losses. "You know, Emily," he used to say, his eyes looking far away, "the war taught me to appreciate the little things. Like a hot bowl of soup on a cold day." Those words were engraved in her mind, making her even more determined to help him. But not everyone understood Emily's decision. "You don't have to do that," Linda said as Emily silently deducted Mr. Walter's meal from her bill for the 10th time. "It's a good thing. But you have to take care of yourself." Emily smiled. "Linda, I believe that sometimes a small act of kindness can make a big difference. And if I can do something to make Mr. Walter's life a little easier, I think it's worth it." One day, while Emily was cleaning the table, Mr. Walter suddenly asked, "Emily, Have you ever thought that everything that happens in life has a reason? His question took her by surprise. I think so, sir. But why do you ask? He smiled, his eyes distant. I don't know why. But I feel like every week I come here. You and everyone at the bar have helped me feel that life has more meaning. It seems like someone is helping me without me knowing. I always feel blessed. Emily felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to tell the truth. But she was afraid that Mr. Walter's pride would make him refuse to help. Instead, she just smiled and said, I think you deserve it. Emily's kindness did not go unnoticed by everyone. Some of her coworkers began to whisper, wondering why she would pay out of her own pocket for someone she only knew through work. He is a good man, said one. But is it really worth it? Another asked. Emily didn't mind the gossip. For her, helping Mr. Walter was a choice that came from the heart. However, one day, Mr. Walter suddenly stopped coming to the shop. Emily felt worried. But she didn't know how to contact him. Maybe he just has a cold or something, Linda said to comfort Emily. But as a week passed, then two, and the table by the window remained empty, Emily's anxiety grew. One Friday morning, while Emily was cleaning the counter, the door to the shop opened, and a middle-aged woman walked in. She was wearing a thick coat. Her black hair was tied back, and she was carrying a large handbag. Excuse me. Are you Emily? The woman asked. Her eyes filled with emotion. Yes. It's me, Emily replied, unable to hide her surprise. I am Sarah Brown, Mr. Walter's daughter. I came to thank you for what you did for my father. Emily was speechless, not knowing how to respond. She never thought her actions would attract this much attention. Sarah said her father was hospitalized for poor health. And during that time he often mentioned the Sunny Diner, a place where he felt welcome and at home. He said that every week, he felt like he was receiving a gift from a stranger. And we knew that person was you. Emily felt embarrassed but at the same time warm inside. Sarah looked at her with gratitude. But what Emily didn't know was that Mr. Walter's family was planning to thank her in a way she couldn't have imagined. After meeting Sarah, Emily couldn't help but wonder. She didn't think her small actions could have such an impact. She felt a little worried, but also relieved to know that Mr. Walter was being cared for by his family. 2 weeks later, on a typical Friday at the Sunny Diner, Emily was wiping down a table when Sarah walked in with an older man, Mr. Walter. He was still thin, but his eyes were brighter than before. When he saw Emily, Mr. Walter smiled and walked over, leaning on his cane. Emily. Thank you, he said, his voice shaking but sincere. I know what you've done for me all this time. Sarah told me everything. And I don't know what to say except thank you. Emily blushed, feeling a little embarrassed. Sir, I just wanted to help. I thought it was the right thing to do. Mr. Walter took her hand. His eyes filled with sadness and emotion. Not only do you fill my stomach, but you also make me feel that I am still cared for in this life. At my age, not everyone has that. The story between them quickly spread throughout the restaurant. The customers who heard it all looked at Emily with eyes full of admiration. Linda, the manager, also felt proud of her employee. But Emily had no idea that this was just the beginning of her surprises. A few days later, Sarah came to Emily at the restaurant with a special invitation. We would like to invite you to dinner at our house. My family would like to express our gratitude to you. Emily hesitated for a moment. She wasn't used to so much attention. But Sarah's sincere gaze made it hard for her to refuse. That evening, Emily walked to Mr. Walter's house, a small, pretty house at the end of a road lined with old oak trees. Sarah opened the door and greeted her with a bright smile. "My father has been waiting for you all day," Sarah said, leading Emily into the living room. Mr. Walter sat in an armchair near the fireplace, surrounded by family photos and military memorabilia. When Emily entered, Mr. Walter smiled and opened his arms to greet her like a long-lost loved one. The dinner was a warm and cozy affair, with humorous and touching stories about Mr. Walter's life. After the meal, when everyone had finished cleaning up, Sarah stood up, holding an envelope and a small gift box in her hand, and walked towards Emily. "Emily," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion, "my father and my family wanted to give you a small gift. It is our way of showing our gratitude for your kindness over the years." Emily opened the gift box. Inside was a small gold necklace, engraved with the words, "Kindness changes lives." She was so moved that before she could say anything, Sarah handed her the envelope. "And this is another gift. Open it when you get home." When Emily returned to her small apartment, she opened the envelope. Inside was a carefully handwritten letter and a check. She froze when she saw the amount written on it, enough to cover the rest of her college tuition. The letter reads, "Dear Emily, your act of kindness has changed my life. Not only with meals but also with my belief in human kindness. I know you are working hard to pursue your dream of becoming a teacher. You deserve to help spread kindness to the next generation. Our family hopes that this small gift will help you achieve your dream. We believe that you will become not only a good teacher but also an inspiration to your students. With deep gratitude, Walter Brown and family." Reading this, Emily couldn't hold back her tears. She couldn't believe that her small action could bring such a big result. The next day, Emily went to the sunny diner in a different mood. She wanted to find a way to repay Mr. Walter's family. But Linda advised her, sometimes the best way to repay is to continue spreading kindness. Stay true to your kind heart. Emily thought about that advice all day. After work, she decided to start a new journey, volunteering at a community center in her town, where she taught poor children to read and write. Knowing that Emily not only accepted the gift but also used it as motivation to continue spreading kindness, Mr. Walter's family felt even more proud of her. They kept in touch regularly, and Mr. Walter often stopped by the sunny diner to visit Emily. One afternoon, Mr. Walter stopped by the shop with another special gift, a military badge that he had kept for many years. "I want you to keep it," he said. "It is a symbol of sacrifice and courage. You have shown me that good things still exist. And I trust that you will continue to spread that to many others." Emily accepted the badge, feeling extremely honored. She promised to always live up to the values that Mr. Walter had taught her through this story. The story of Emily and Mr. Walter spread throughout the town, becoming a symbol of kindness. The sunny diner became more and more crowded, not only because of the delicious food but also because people wanted to meet the young girl who had done the miracle. Emily continues to work at the restaurant, but now she feels her life is more meaningful than ever. Every day, she tries to find ways to help those around her. Whether it is a smile, a greeting, or a small act. She realized that it was the kindness of Mr. Walter and his family that helped her understand the value of kindness. And now, she is determined to spread that value to others, as a way to give back to life. A year after that memorable evening at Mr. Walter's house, Emily's life has changed in ways she never dreamed possible. She is now a freshman at a nearby college, working part-time at the Sunny Diner. Friday afternoons at the diner were as familiar as ever. But now, when Mr. Walter walked in, his smile was no longer as melancholy as before. He sat at the usual corner table, ordered the same food. But the difference was that he no longer counted out the coins to pay. Emily has also become an indispensable part of Mr. Walter's family. Every weekend, she often stops by his house to drink tea and chat with him and Sarah. Their relationship is now like a real family. One day, while Emily was working at the bar, a strange customer walked in. He was a middle-aged man in a suit, carrying a luxurious leather briefcase. He walked straight up to the counter and asked, "Excuse me, is Miss Emily Parker here?" Emily looked up in surprise. "Yes. It's me. What's the matter?" The man introduced himself as Mr. Walter's lawyer. In his hand was a thick envelope and a stack of documents. "My father wanted me to send you this." Sarah, standing behind the lawyer, explained. He thought it was time to do something he had been thinking about for a long time. Emily opened the envelope, her eyes widening at the contents. It was a certificate that made her the heir to a portion of Mr. Walter's estate, a sum of money larger than she could have imagined. Sarah smiled, placing her hand on Emily's shoulder. "My father said your kindness helped him live some of the happiest days of his life. He wanted this gift to continue the kindness you started." Emily was so surprised and moved that she was speechless. She stammered, I can't accept it. This is Mr. Walter's hard work. I didn't do anything to deserve this. You have done more than you realize." "Emily," Sarah said softly, "my father believed that if you had this gift, you would use it for good. As you always have." Emily spent a few days thinking about this unexpected amount of money. With advice from Sarah and Mr. Walter, she decided to use some of it to finish her university studies. With the rest, she set up a small charity called the Kindness Foundation to support those in need in the town of Bedford.
On the day the foundation opened, the whole town gathered at the Sunny Diner to celebrate Emily. Mr. Walter, in a formal suit, stepped forward and spoke with emotion.
Emily is proof that kindness doesn't have to be big to change lives. A bowl of soup, a smile, a small act can do wonders. Today, I'm proud to say I was the recipient of her kindness. And I know this fund will help many more people feel that same kindness." Emily stood up, her eyes sparkling. "I couldn't have done this without the support and belief from you and your family. I hope that this foundation will not only be a way to repay you, but also a way to spread the values you taught me." The story ends with Emily, Walter, and Sarah standing together, surrounded by laughter and appreciation from the community. The Kindness Foundation is not only a symbol of kindness, but also a reminder that, in a sometimes harsh world, one small act can make a difference. Emily's kindness to Mr. Walter changed not only her life, but the entire Bedford community. And in Mr. Walter's eyes, Emily was more than just a waitress at a small diner. She was someone who lit up his final days with a belief in human kindness. The story ends with the words, "Kindness is a small candle, but its light can reach the farthest places." Thank you for joining Kindness Stories to listen to today's story. Hopefully this story will inspire you to spread kindness in life. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next meaningful stories.